Located at 267 West Center Street in the heart of downtown Marion, is now accepting applications from adults, students, and seniors. The Harding Center is a beautiful historic building offering one-bedroom apartments and efficiencies at affordable rental rates. All utilities are included. Basic cable and internet are available. The Harding Center is equipped with an on-site laundry facility for its residents. The property is located on the Marion City Transit bus line, and off-street parking is available. The Harding Center is managed by Starfish Building, LLC, Lois J. Fisher and Associates. For more information, contact them at hardingcenter@gmail.com or give them a call at 740-223-3288. The Harding Center, a beautiful place to live in the heart of downtown
Sargent's
Marion.
Greenscapes is a full-service lawn and landscape company located in Marion, Ohio. We specialize in making your home a beautiful place to enjoy your time. Fall is here, and that means the leaves are falling. This year, let Sarge and the troops clean up that mess for you. We have the equipment and strong backs to handle any amount of leaves you may have. So sit back, relax, and let us take care of everything. Mention that you heard about us on Scott Spears Now and receive 5% off any service. Also, ask about our senior citizen and veterans discounts. From landscaping to lawn care, mowing to leaf removal, Sarge and the troops can give you an outdoors to make your country proud. Find us on Facebook or call 740-751-5207.
Scott Spears here with you for another edition of Scott Spears Now. Tonight the guest, a man who's back in the cookie business. Can you believe it? He is Famous Amos himself, Wally Amos, back in the cookie business as the Cookie Man. Tonight we recount his days with Famous Amos, what happened with the Famous Amos Cookie Company, and what he is doing in Hawaii today. One last shot at the cookie business. This is Wally Amos's first interview since re-entering the cookie business, and it's right now on Scott Spears Now, a guy I like a whole lot, Mr. Kazoo, Mr. Watermelon, Mr. Cookie, Wally Amos. This is Scott Spears. And today I'm joined by one of the pioneers in the cookie business, and certainly one of the pioneers in the entrepreneurial business. He is the man who put Famous Amos cookies on the map, Famous Amos himself, Wally Amos. And by the way, before we get to Wally, I want to let you know that he is back in business making cookies again, and you can learn a lot about that by going on the internet to www.thecookie-man-hawaii.com. I am so happy to be joined by a true icon in the world of pitchmen, entrepreneurs, and just cookies in general, Mr. Wally Amos, live from Hawaii.
Live from Hawaii. This is now, Scott, this is an absolute first for me. I've Skyped many times, but, you know, the audience should know that we were having problems with my computer, with Skyping from my computer. The video, we kept losing video. And so now I'm Skyping from my iPhone, and yet another use for the iPhone. So here we are. You're in Marion, Ohio. I'm in Honolulu, Hawaii. And it's like we're in the same room together.
And I would just like to note that when we were having all that trouble on the internet, Wally came up with the solution. He said, let's try the iPhone, and by golly, we got there.
And this is the very first experience for me, Skyping on the iPhone, and it's better than Skyping on my computer.
you could do this from the beach with the iPhone.
Yes, you can do this from anywhere. Yeah.
That's exactly right. Well, Wally, I tell you, I got to ask you,
Back in the cookie business, I know you've had your hands in it over the years, but hey, you're back.
I am back. I've been back several times, and I've never seemed to have been able to get the right combination, you know. I've had quite a few companies, and I joke with people now. It's not a joke, but I make a joke out of it, that I've had many names, and they've all sold the same cookie. You know, I had a company once called Uncle No Name. That was here in Hawaii. I started a muffin company called Uncle Wally's. So I had a company called Chip and Cookie. And all of those were different names, but the one thing that I've always sold in those venues was my original handmade cookie. Scott, that is the taste of that handmade cookie is literally the taste that made me famous. And that is a slogan also that we use now with the Cookie Man, the taste that made me famous. And people have responded so strongly and so positively to that taste that I said, you know, before I die, I want to have one more company. And we came up with the name The Cookie Man because that's what I am. You know, when you talk about chicken, there's only one person that's really associated with chicken, and that's the Colonel. McDonald's has got hamburgers cornered, and Wally Amos is definitely the Cookie Man.
There is no doubt about it. You carved out a niche all yourself that nobody else has been able to fill in the last more than 3 decades since the famous Amos Cookie Company got off the ground. Wally, when you sat down and said, okay, I'm going to give this one more shot, what is it about this setup? What is it about this time? What is it about this cookie that's going to make this one work?
Well, I think, first of all, I think the name is special this time. Because oftentimes people will see me and they'll say, hey, there's the Cookie Man. Or, hey, Cookie Man, how you doing? So I think the name is really going to stick in a very positive way. I think also what I'm doing something that I've never really done before, because I'm not necessarily a computer savvy guy. I've got a great team of people. I've got a website master who is the master of doing that, and he's put together a beautiful website. It's very functional, and it's very easy to operate, to navigate. So, but what is different is that I'm going to exclusively sell cookies online. I don't have a store here in Hawaii. Cookies are made in Hawaii and will always be made in Hawaii because I want the cookies to be made where I am, so that I can go by periodically and check up and just make sure that they're okay. But I like making them too. But I think the thing that makes this special is that I'm really using technology in a way that so many people are. Without a brick and mortar store, I have a website. That is my store. That's my location. That's where you can go, and that's where you can purchase cookies. And you can purchase them from wherever you are, and we will ship anywhere. If you want to pay the postage, then we will ship.
And I want to let everybody know, I don't normally endorse, but you were kind enough to send me some of these cookies. And I was seriously impressed, because I don't believe there's anything that you can go down to your corner drugstore or grocery store and get that's like these cookies. And maybe it's that fact that you pay attention, you look, you are the Cookie Man.
I am the Cookie Man. But they are handmade cookies. They're homemade. They taste like homemade cookies. When you make cookies at home, and you mix the batter up and you put one cookie on a tray at a time, they don't come out of a machine. You use a machine to mix it, but that's it. And after that, it's another human being that touches the cookie. And I think it is the energy of people that makes the difference. And I think it is the energy of Wally Amos that really supplies the the taste and the aloha. You know, we live in Hawaii, so we talk about making things with aloha. You know, the aloha spirit. Aloha is the spirit of love. Aloha is love, and I've always thought that about a Wally Amos cookie. I love chocolate chip cookies more than anyone has ever. And we don't have just chocolate chip cookies. We have 3 flavors of cookies. We have chocolate chip, we have butterscotch with macadamia nut, and we have chocolate chip with pecan. Now, I'm starting with those 3. I don't think it's necessary to have 31 flavors, because if you've got 1, 2, or 3, or 4 that really are you, and always you only have 3 or 4 that's your best sellers anyway. They carry the rest of the line. So I'm going with the best that I have, Scott. And I know that they will be good every single time. And my goal is to bake cookies in the old-fashioned style, the way my Aunt Della made them at home. They were handmade cookies with lots of aloha throughout that batter. And the fact that a person who cares takes that cookie and puts it on the cookie sheet, takes it out, puts it in the bag. So I really think that having a store utilizing technology, and it's so easy to do. We ship with United States Postal Service, USPS. We use the regular post office for shipping, and we have 2 sizes. You have a medium-sized box, it's $12.35, and you can put as many cookies in that box as you want, and the cost of it is still only $12.35. Then they have a large box, which is I think $15.86 for shipping. And again, you can put as many bags of cookies, so you can really amortize your cost. You know, spread your cost of cookies out. I think it's a waste of money to order only 1 bag. We sell in 1 pound increments, and 1 pound of cookies. I ship them in individual bags, in half-pound bags. So if you order 1 pound of cookies, you'll get 2 half-pound bags. But I think this is the future, and I'm happy to finally be a part of it because I'm a dinosaur.
Wally, when you say handmade, you brought that up twice there. Are you really in the kitchen making these?
Well, right now I am, yes. Yeah, but after I get a bakery to make them, there'll be another person, there'll be another human being that will actually be in the kitchen making the cookies. There'll be a lot of them, really, because I think the demand is going to be really wonderful. There are people throughout the United States and possibly the world, but we're not dealing with the world now. We're just dealing with the United States of America. So there are thousands of people who I believe have a yearning to taste that original Wally Amos cookie. And so it is made in a kitchen, like any other. It's got to be a commercial kitchen because they have to be certified and all that, you know. So it's not just made in the back room of somebody's house, but it has to be in a commercial kitchen. And there's people. There are people who make these cookies. People who care about these cookies, and I'm going to make sure of that because they're not going to work with me if they don't care about cookies, if they don't care about quality, if they don't understand that these cookies are filled with aloha.
Do you like to still go in the kitchen and take the batter and mix it and do the whole bit?
God, I really do. There is something magical, I believe, about making the chocolate chip. And I can't speak for other cookies. Even though we make a butterscotch with macadamia nut, chocolate chip with pecan, it all comes from the same basic cookie dough. And that's the same dough that all chocolate chip cookies have been made from since time began, you know. So I love the mixing of it. I love, you know, when you get everything mixed up, and then you got to put your finger in there and you got to taste it to make sure that taste is there. And what I do is when we're dropping the cookie, I call it dropping. They used to be called drop cookies, you know, because we actually roll the batter out in strips, and then you pinch off a piece of the cookie dough and you gently place it on the cookie sheet. And there are people that can do that so fast because they've worked with me for such a long period of time. And I don't have the speed that I once had, but I'm pretty good at this, you know. So yes, it is a handmade process that people actually touch the cookie dough. And as I go through that process, I taste the dough at each stage, you know. First you mix in the eggs and all the wet ingredients and butter and stuff, and then you get all that. So it has to have a certain look to it. It has to have a certain taste to it. So I put my finger in, and you want to taste that, and then if you put in the flour, and then you got to mix that thoroughly and make sure that that's all blended very, very well. And then I got to taste that. It has a certain texture, a certain look to it, you know, and you got to make sure it's there. But then the determining factor is the taste. So then ultimately you taste that, and then if it's a chocolate chip, you got to put in tons of chocolate chip, because our cookie has 32% chocolate. That's a lot of chocolate. Chocolate is the first ingredient. We use pure vanilla extract, not imitation or artificial. So all of that is said and done, and then you taste that final product and you look at it, and when you look at my cookie dough for chocolate chip cookies, you see chocolate everywhere, Scott. Everywhere. So yeah, it's a process that requires patience, that requires paying attention. You got to really watch what you're doing, because the slightest little slip up, you got to throw out the whole batter. So yeah, it's a process that's filled with love, that's filled with care, and you can taste that. That's transferable to the mouth and through the cookies that the customers will be tasting.
The taste is very important. You certainly have made a career of this. Aunt Della's recipe, you call it aloha, made with aloha. The Colonel has... Go ahead.
Excuse me interrupting you, but it is not Aunt Della's recipe. Aunt Della was the first one that made chocolate chip cookies for me. The recipe that she used was just a Toll House recipe. That's the recipe that everyone uses. But then everyone adds their spirit to it. Everyone adds their little touch to it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I add my touch to it. I also add a lot of chocolate. And I add pure vanilla extract. I add butter to it, you know. So all of those things, using the finest ingredients and doing it with a lot of loving care, is a very critical part, I think, of anything that you do, whether it's cookies or whether it's making shoes.
We talk about the Colonel's 7 herbs and spices. We talk about McDonald's secret sauce.
Yes.
What is it that you do differently? Is there something you throw in there? Is there...
There is nothing different that I use than other people use with their cookies, because the recipe is there. It's on the back of chocolate chips from everywhere. But I don't think the secret ingredient to life is flour, vanilla, sugar, or chocolate. I think that each individual holds their own secret. It's your attitude, it's your disposition, it's your approach to life. It's how positive you can be, not how positive someone else's can be. How positive can you be? How much love do you have? How much attention to detail do you give to what you do? How strong is your desire to make the perfect cookie? You know what I mean? So all of those things are really critical. And my cookies possess the best of Wally Amos. Even though someone else might make them, I created this recipe. I created this taste. This taste happens because of Wally Amos. So my spirit and the love that I have for life and for cookies and the determination that I have, all of those aspects of Wally Amos go into these cookies, the Cookie Man cookie. I am the Cookie Man, no question about it.
Absolutely. I don't think anybody would question that. You know, Wally, we talked a little bit about Aunt Della there. What, in a tin-type fashion, was your growing up like, your childhood?
Well, I was born in Tallahassee, Florida, and it was I was born in 1936, and it was at the height of segregation. So I was born in a difficult time for black people to be born in, because they had very few rights and no respect at all. And so in Tallahassee, it was Florida. It was the South, you know. And I went to a segregated school. I had to walk all the way across town, you know, to get to school. My mother was domestic. My father worked in a local gas plant. And we lived in a lower income community. So didn't have a lot of pluses, didn't have a lot of extra anything. But my mom, she wasn't the cuddly kind of mom, you know. She was a kind of mom that if I did something wrong, she'd let me know I did something wrong. But she had strong values, and she really cared about me. She loved me in a way that she loved me. And I'm so thankful, because I developed into the person that I am today because of the love that my mom had for me, because of the way that she raised me. And she was the dominant person in our family. When I was 12 years old, my mother and father divorced, and I moved to New York City to live with my mother's sister, Aunt Della. My mother went to Florida. It was in Florida. Went from Tallahassee, Florida, to Orlando, Florida, to live with her mom, Julia. And she sent me off to New York to live with Aunt Della. And so I kind of grew up in New York, you know. Went to school, junior high school in New York, went to high school. I thought I was going to be a cook, and wound up going to Food Trades Vocational High School. I didn't want to be a cook, and I also dropped out of school and joined the Air Force. And after that, I was kind of on my own, just going from one thing to another. But I never had any special privileges. Never had any great advantages over anyone else. Never had a lot of material stuff at all. But I had enough of the things that mattered. And I think that those aspects of life became the foundation of my life.
Because you have to have a love. The conversation we just had about cookies there, you can tell there's a love. When did that love develop?
Aunt Della. When I moved to live with Aunt Della in New York, she was the very first person to ever make chocolate chip cookies for me. I sit in that little small 3-bedroom, one bedroom apartment, 3 rooms, and I'd sit in that little kitchen and watch her make cookies. And I'd get to lick the spoon and to lick the bowl. I mean, nothing could have been better than that. And I love those cookies, and she loved me. And all I had to do was make oh, Aunt Della, I want some more cookies. Just make a little sad face, you know. And sure enough, she'd mix up some more cookies for me. So the love that I have for chocolate chip cookies comes directly from Aunt Della. She's the only person that ever made chocolate chip cookies for me. And because even though they had a son, his name was Joseph, and but you know, I was the baby of the bunch, and all I had to do was make a sad face. Oh, Aunt Della, I want some cookies. And she'd go in that kitchen and mix up a batch of cookies for me. So my understanding of great tasting cookies, my love of great tasting homemade, handmade chocolate chip cookies came from Aunt Della. And it is so deeply embedded in me that here at the age of 77 years old, I'm starting another company, man, selling those cookies because people love them. You know, here's the thing about taste, Scott. That you cannot trick the mouth. You can't give the mouth something that really tastes horrible and trick the mouth into believing that it's a good tasting product. The mouth will spit it out. By the same token, you can't give your mouth something that has all the right ingredients and a great taste and have the mouth reject it. Taste never lies. good taste will withstand everything else. And I think the thing that I have proven through the years with my handmade cookies, man, is that that's the truth, because people remember the taste. And everybody's got a story about when they had the first Wally Amos cookie, the first Cookie Man's cookie. So that taste is just stuck with you. You can taste the love. That's the power of love. That's the power of aloha. And I live in the land of aloha. I'm surrounded. I am immersed in aloha. It's everywhere in Hawaii. And that's why I think it's great that these cookies are made in Hawaii. Their home is in Hawaii. My home is in Hawaii. And this cookie is handmade in Hawaii with aloha.
For people who don't know, you're a child, you're living with Aunt Della. Aunt Della's making these cookies. I know we take a gigantic leap, but how do we get to the famous Amos Company? Where did that come from?
Well, I started making cookies in 1970 in Hollywood, California. One of my clients, Sherry Summers, came in one day, and she had some homemade cookies, and I hadn't had any in a long time. And I just went crazy. I said, "Where'd you get these cookies?" And I wanted to make them right away. I never wanted to make them before because Aunt Della would always send them to me. But Sherry Summers gave me the recipe. She said, "Well, the recipe's on the back of the Nestle chocolate chip package." As soon as our meeting was over, I went to the supermarket, got some cookies, and sure enough, there it was. And that's what started me making cookies. I made them for 5 years, and every time I'd go to a meeting, I would take cookies with me. So it became my calling card. And people love the cookies. The first business card I had, I wasn't selling them, but a friend of mine, a guy named Sam Denoff, he had a partner called Bill Persky. They had a great team, Persky, Denoff. They produced the My Girl series, the Dick Van Dyke Show, a lot of stuff years ago. So Sam called my company Uncle Wally's Aunt Wally's Cookies, because I cared about Aunt Della serving them. But that started, so I would give the cookies away, and people would see me and, "Hey man, where are my cookies?" So they became very possessive, and I just started making cookies and sharing them for more and more people. They became my calling card, so that people see thousands of actors and actresses and performers. And I wanted to stand out with my clients. And my cookies helped me to do that. And ultimately, after 5 years of making them and just creating a reputation only within the entertainment industry, a good friend of mine, she was Quincy Jones' secretary. Her name was B.J. Gilmore. And one evening, we were having dinner, and she all of a sudden said, "You know, we ought to sell these cookies. And I've got a friend that I can get to put up the money." It was then that I made the commitment. That evening, the latter part of October 1974, I made the commitment to open one store selling cookies, to have fun doing it, and to make the absolute best cookie I could possibly make. And that's still my goal. And I did that. And the result of that was Famous Amos. I made a lot of mistakes along the way, and I wound up losing Famous Amos. A lot of people think it was taken from me, but nobody can take anything from you. You have to make your own, you have to lay in your own bed because you make your own bed. So, but you know, I think for so many years now, I've sought to come back and to redeem myself, to prove that, you know, I'm better than I demonstrated I was in that former life that I was living. And I made a lot of mistakes that didn't always have the greatest attitude. And so when you live life in that manner, there are consequences. The consequence for me was losing Famous Amos, a company that I had become so embedded with, you know, by design. The way I promoted that, I was Famous Amos. And now I am the Cookie Man. And we'll take all the lessons that I've learned, the positive changes I've made in my life, and I'm going to apply that to the Cookie Man. And I believe, Scott, we're going to have an overwhelming success. I think that virally these cookies are going to pick up through social media, through Facebook and Twitter and all those social media applications, and people are going to begin to find out what these cookies are. And you're the leader. This is the first interview.
Well, I really,
as a cookie man.
well, I really do hold that in high distinction. You know, Wally, when I look back at that famous Amos company, you know, there are people today, because you were in the commercials, who believe that you are still there. That's your company.
Absolutely.
When
Yes.
you say mistakes happen, I know there was a whole book written about this. You wrote a book about it. But what would you consider to be the biggest mistake you made that cost you that company?
Well, not being a team player and forgetting that there were a lot of people that were helping me to create that company by thinking that I was more important than my team. You know, I am more than I am, and I'm pretty good, you know. But I can always be more than that, because that's the nature of human beings. But I'm less than we are. I am not bigger than the team, and I lost track of that, and that was really what ultimately caused me to lose Famous Amos. Not being a team player, just losing sight of myself and who I really was, and how important all the other people. Man, I got a team of people now. I got a graphic designer that's so incredible. I got a website designer that's so great. I got a packaging guy that's wonderful. I mean, I got a wonderful team of people. I got an attorney, and everybody loves me, and they're just working pro bono right now to help me get started, because I don't have any money really, you know. But I find that what's more important than money is friends. And I've got some great relationships and some people that believe in me, and I will not let them down this time. I will I'm going to be inclusive. Everybody's going to be, who's contributing to this company, will participate from it and will have input into how we move forward.
Wally, you said something there that I know is going to catch people's ear, because you own this gigantic, successful cookie company. You were the spokesperson. The famous Amos cookie is still around. You have been honored by the White House. You have things in the Smithsonian. And you said you don't have a lot of money. I think people would find that hard to believe.
Well, because I lost the company. So Famous Amos went on to make hundreds of millions of dollars. But Wally Amos didn't get any of that. But that's okay, because I created the circumstances under which all of that happened. But I will always be Wally Amos. I can't be anyone else. No one can take away my laughter, my enthusiasm, the essence of who I am, which is transferred to my cookies. That's what's in the Cookie Man cookies, you know? So I will always have that. And I'm using it now in a much more positive way than I used it before. I think we get as many chances as we deserve. And it seems that I'm deserving of one last chance. And this is it. So, the Cookie Man.
Well, Wally, I also want to say this. When I started this interview, I called you pioneer. And one thing you did that a lot of people did after you, but you were right there at the forefront, you represented your company. You were Famous Amos.
Yes.
Why was that? How did that come about?
Came about because it was my idea, because no one else had the idea. I had the idea, and I implemented it. I needed a lot of people to help me implement it, but I was always the leader. I was always the person that was spearheading the company. And so why wouldn't it be called Famous Amos? You know, and the name Famous Amos came up because of V.J. Gilmore, the lady who suggested that we go in business together. She said, we were looking for a name. She said, well, why don't we just choose from Nashville, Tennessee? She said, well, why don't we just call it the Famous Amos chocolate chip cookie? And that was it. And then I remember the guy who created the logo. His name was Chuck Cassell. And Chuck was playing around with designs and playing around with designs. Finally, I went in his office one day, and the logo and all the graphics were created on the lot at A&M Records, the office of A&M Records, because I represented performers who were signed to A&M Records. And so all the Famous Amos graphics were created at A&M Records. I went into Chuck's office, and he took a pencil, and he wrote the famous Amos cookie, exclamation point. That was it. It needed nothing else after that. You know, it wasn't the cookie store, it was just the famous Amos cookie. And now it's really the cookie man. You don't need to say anything else after you have said the cookie man. So life has a way too of giving you these gifts. And famous Amos was a gift. It was a gift from God, no question about it. And I was not a good shepherd of that gift. I am going to be a much better shepherd of the cookie man gifts. Yeah.
Wally, I want to run down some things here because I'm going to be remiss if I don't. You have created not only the cookie business, you are the cookie man, no doubt about it, but there are some signature things about Wally Amos in general that I want to know where their derivation came from. And the first one is the Panama hat.
Well, everything that was famous Amos was Wally Amos. So I didn't want to have to create something to be something or somebody else. So everything that became that was a part of famous Amos was truly it derived from Wally Amos. I used to always wear a Panama hat, and when I took my photographs to come up with the image for the company, I wore suits, I wore this, I wore that, and one of the things I took pictures in was that Indian Guard shirt. That was one of my most favorite shirts, and that was the image that the designer Roland Young chose as the image for famous Amos. That's just the way it happened. And that Panama hat now is in the Smithsonian, and I was the first African American to ever have anything in the Smithsonian. And famous Amos was the first business, the cookie business, to be a part of the Smithsonian. It wasn't Nabisco or any of those other companies. Famous Amos was the first product to be in the Smithsonian Business Americana Museum.
That's an amazing.
That's how that happened. Everything was an extension of Wally Amos. It was my clothes. I didn't want to wear a costume. I had a friend say, "Well, you ought to have a chef's hat." And I said, "No, I'm not a chef." You know, and I will always represent Wally Amos. I will be Wally Amos wherever. I don't have to wear a uniform. I'm not looking for a costume. I show up. Whatever I'm wearing is what I am.
You have the pineapples on today, Wally, but the watermelon. You're highly associated with watermelon. Yes. Where did that come from?
Yeah. Hold on one second. Hold on one second. Wait a minute.
There we go.
Put it back a bit so it doesn't hurt my face.
Tell me about the watermelon, Wally.
The watermelon hat. Well, first of all, I love watermelon, and that's why watermelon has become a part of my life, because I've been eating watermelon since I was a little kid, and I just love it, man. I have it here in Hawaii. I can have watermelon through November because nice season, weather's conducive to growing watermelons into November. So, my former mother-in-law, she bought me a costume hat from New Orleans. You know, they have little crazy hats, and it had little watermelon seeds in it, and I loved it, and I started wearing it all the time. Then I met a company called Elope, and Elope stands for Everyone Laughing on Planet Earth. They're a great group of guys out of Colorado Springs, and they make those costume hats. And so they developed this watermelon hat for me. And I started wearing it because it's fun. You see, I'm about standing out. I'm not about I'm blending in. So I've never seen anybody else wearing a watermelon hat. If they did, they got it for me because I'm the only one I've known that's sold them. So it became an identifying feature that when you see this hat, immediately this hat says Wally Amos. And people say, well, why don't you wear a cookie hat? I never came across a cookie hat. That's why. But this watermelon hat, it struck a nerve with me because I love watermelon. So nothing about me is phony or fake. I don't pretend to be anything I'm not. And that's how the watermelon hat came to be. And this makes sense too, with this hat, this read it loud.
Read it loud.
You know, in addition to promoting cookies and selling cookies, I have been promoting literacy for well over 30 years, 35, 37 years. And it started with adult literacy. And then eventually I said, well, how can we get rid of the problem of adult illiteracy? And it occurred to me that I think a viable way of doing that is to create generations of children who not only know how to read, but love to read. So they're not going to grow up as illiterates. So that has become my cause. Since about 2004, I've had this foundation called the Read It Loud Foundation, and I am just an advocate, a staunch advocate for parents reading aloud to their children from birth until at least 6 years old. And my daughter Sarah, my wife Christine, and Christine was my wife at the time, we were since divorced. But we started reading to Sarah while Sarah was in the womb. And it's almost as if Sarah came out reading, because she's a voracious reader. She's been reading since she was a little kid. And it's because we read to her. I got a friend here in Hawaii. His name is Cooper. His mom reads to him all the time. Cooper has written his first book. Why don't you show it to you? Right?
Hey, look at that.
This is Cooper. Fishing for Dogs.
Fishing for Dogs.
This whole book was written, thought up, designed by Cooper. This little kid who's now 7 years old. And I'm going to get that book published for him. I got some publisher friends here in Hawaii. So, you know, all of this is a part of Famous Amos. And this watermelon hat is very definitely a part of Wally Amos.
Well, the literacy is very important, Wally. What got you onto that? There are a lot of great causes in the world. What put you into that one?
Well, I knew when I started Famous Amos that I would use the company also to promote some aspect of community, some aspect of human life. And my publicist, John Rossiker, had a friend who was a tutor with literacy volunteers. I liked it. It's important, but I liked it also because my style of promoting is very loose and it's fun, you know. And I can't promote cancer in that manner, using that type personality. So I needed something that I could have fun with, and that I could promote it in a way that would not be depressing for people also. And literacy became that. And I became an advocate for adults who could not read. I'd go to conferences and I'd always spend more time with the adult students than I would with anyone else there who was not who reading and stuff. So that's all. See, everything I do has been a part of my life. I didn't create anything just to sell cookies. Cookies started out being a part of my life. That's why my cookies taste different. That's why my cookies taste the way Wally's cookies taste.
Well, yeah, well, Wally, there is another part of you, as we talk here, that a signature, and it's maybe my favorite signature other than the cookies, and it's the kazoo.
And here it is.
And where did that come from, Wally?
Well, this particular kazoo was given to me by a lady named Sharon Darling. Sharon Darling is the president of the National Center for Family Literacy, which is headquartered in Louisville, Kentucky. And I was the first board member, and I was on their board for a very, very long time. But she was at a crafts fair in Louisville one day and saw this kazoo. And she said, there ain't but one person that can have that kazoo, and that's Wally Amos. And she sent it to him. And but even before that, the kazoo became a part of my makeup because there was a specialty store in Los Angeles, in Hollywood, on Santa Monica Boulevard, called Propinquity. And they sold a wide array of gifts and knickknacks. And I sold cookies there. I used to deliver cookies there. And one day I was delivering cookies, and I noticed those little submarine type kazoos. Oh yeah, I had when I had chip and cookie, I had chip and cookie kazoos made, you know. So I was, they had little gold plated kazoos, and so I traded the guy a couple of bags of cookies for a couple of kazoos. And because the reason I did that, Scott, was when I go on a television show, I don't tell jokes or sing songs or do tap dancing, because I'm not an entertainer. I'm not a comedian. So I didn't want there to be any dead time, though. So I needed something when I was lost for words, didn't know what to say. The kazoo filled that void for me, and it became a trademark. Yeah, so again, you see how all of these things were already a part of my life, or fit into my life so comfortably. I didn't have to create anything and be something else. I don't have to remember what I tell people. All I have to do is recall what I tell people, because I don't lie.
Very well said. Wally, I heard a story years ago. I want to know if it's true, and if I'm just going to say the name here, it involves the kazoo, and if it is, you tell the story. Barbara Bush.
Well, that Barbara Bush story is actually more about my shoes than it is about the kazoo. Barbara was speaking to a group of librarians at the White House. There was a library conference going on, and I was a part of it. And so we had a meeting earlier in the day over at the Library of Congress, and all the people would gather around. Now, my former wife, Christine, was an artist, and she painted my shoes for me. And then ultimately, I started having shoes made with watermelon designs on them. And on one of my visits to the White House with Christine, in the receiving line, Barbara and George were greeting everyone, and we came up, and I was wearing painted shoes, because I always wore painted shoes. I still do. And George and Barbara commented on my shoes, and I said, well, my wife created them, Mr. President, and she'll make a pair for you also. So sometime later, I received, actually Christine received a pair of tennis shoes, female tennis shoes, that Barbara Bush had gotten. And George sent the tennis shoes to Christine to paint for Barbara Bush. And so she did it, and they were beautiful. Barbara sent a wonderful note. And so at this particular meeting, before Barbara went on, I went backstage to say hello to her and just to chat for a bit. And she had this beautiful dress on. It was a red and white polka dot kind of dress. And she had these little plain shoes. And I looked at her feet and I said, Barbara, where are your shoes? Implying that she should be wearing her watermelon shoes. And so there was no one present. So she asked her assistant to go up and to get her painted shoes. And they brought them down to her, and Barbara put them on. And she, when I came in, she commented about my being in the audience and about my shoes. So my shoes have stirred up a lot of activity, and have gained a lot of attention through the years, from the First Lady on down.
Now,
again, creating something that becomes a part of me, not just to sell something, but but to add more joy to my life. And if I have more joy in my life, guess what? I'm going to share it with you. I'm going to share it with everyone else that I meet also.
The story I heard, Wally, was that Barbara came in, it was something, I'm not sure what, might have been a meeting at the White House, and you played Hail to the Chief on the kazoo.
Well, I did, you know what, I did that, I think it was at that same gathering when, this was another time when Christine and I went to the White House when I received the Literacy Honors Award. And we went upstairs. The award was in one of the green room or the blue room or the pink room, one of the rooms. And after that, then they had a little. They invited us up to the second floor, which is the living quarters. And somehow or another, Christine and I got up there first, and we were walking around admiring everything. And all of a sudden, around the corner comes George and Barbara Bush. Well, the first thing that I thought of to do was to move out my kazoo and play Hail to the Chief. So I said, and George Bush didn't know what to do, but Barbara Bush started doing a little dance.
That is a great story.
That was what that was. But I tell you, just one more shoe story. When Barbara came in to speak at that little session with the librarians, as she was walking up the aisle, I was seated all the way in the back of the room. She got almost to the front of the room, and I yelled out from the back of the room, "Look at those shoes!" And everybody cracked up. Everybody cracked up. You know, life's a fun experience.
Those are wonderful
stories. If you're not having fun, you might as well not be living.
And I can't imagine, Wally, that you would have had more fun than working with the late, great Andy Kaufman. Yeah, go ahead.
Taxi.
Wonderful.
Taxi was one of the... I've gotten more exposure from Taxi than any other single thing I have done. I still get residual checks, 15 cents or 30 cents or $1. But that was just really so much fun. And I had known Andy Kaufman though before Taxi, because he was managed by a guy named George Shapiro. George Shapiro had been an agent at William Morris, where he had been Andy Kaufman's agent. George and I worked at William Morris during the same time period. And so I met Andy during those times. And he was, we're all different, and he was more different than others, and he was willing to express his differences, to express his uniqueness, to be Andy Kaufman wherever he was. And so it was a nice thing to know him. And that Taxi episode was written by Alan Brooks, who was one of the co-creators of Mary Tyler Moore Show and Taxi. And he wrote that just for me. And it was fun doing it, and I loved it. I had a great time there.
How did it ever come about that you were going to do Taxi? Was it through Andy, or?
No, it was not. It was John Brooks. I didn't know Andy to that degree, but Brooks. I had been to a screening of Popeye. You remember the movie that
Robin Williams.
Robin Williams did Popeye. I went to the premiere of Popeye in Hollywood, and Jim Brooks was there, and we started talking. He said, maybe I'll do something for you, and he wrote that piece into Taxi just for me, and it was great. Yeah, it was fun.
It was a wonderful, wonderful bit of television.
Amos. I don't believe it.
What's happening, Latka?
I don't know what's happening to you. Why, welcome to my home.
Thank you, but I'm not really here. You're hallucinating.
Oh,
I'm only in your mind.
Well, then welcome to my mind. If I knew you were coming, I would have cleaned it up a bit.
Listen, man, I heard what happened to your cookies. It's a tough break.
Oh, that's nice of you to say.
I came by because I wanted to say that success, fame, fortune, all that stuff, it's truly overrated.
Oh.
I wanted to tell you that the really important things in life are the simple things.
Oh, the simple
The
thing.
sunset,
Yeah.
the smelling of a flower. I'd like to tell you all of those things, Latka, but I can't.
Why?
Because it's a crock.
A crock?
That's right, a crock. Hey, man, success is wonderful.
Yeah?
Cash is out of sight.
Oh.
Do whatever you can to be successful, because it's great.
Great.
And if it happens overnight, it's even better. Hey, your cookies went down the tubes. Big deal.
Big deal.
Try cupcakes.
Yeah.
Try jelly rolls. Aluminum siding.
Exciting.
What's the difference, man?
Nothing at all.
Just get rich.
These are wonderful words.
Oh, man, I just want to try to help, you know?
Well, thank you very much.
Give me 5. Keep the change.
Thank you. You keep it. Bye-bye, famous Amos. Thank you for the hallucination. It was wonderful. Maybe we do it again sometime.
Wally, you know, as we look back at this interview, and this has been a lot of fun for me,
Me too. A lot of memories that I've talked about for a long time.
I've enjoyed it quite a bit. You said your age earlier on, 77 years old. You say this is your final shot in the cookie business.
It is, yes.
Okay, at 77 years old, people watching this might say, you know, is it retirement? You're in the most beautiful place in the world. Why not just go sit on the beach and enjoy yourself? Why undertake this at 77?
So why do I have to sit on the beach to enjoy myself? I'm enjoying myself now. I'm enjoying myself talking to you. I'm enjoying myself every time I go in the kitchen to make cookies, every time I sell a bag of cookies, every time I do a promotion. So I'm enjoying myself. I'm doing what I choose to do. I'm doing what I want to do. I'm doing what gives me great pleasure, and I do it well. And so that's what life is about. You know, I had a friend that worked for a big company, and he said the average at the time that they said a retirement check was 15 months. And after that, the guy had died, the lady had died. So no, I'm going to work as long as I'm healthy enough to work, and as long as I enjoy working and doing. It's not work. What I do isn't work, man. I'm doing an interview with you. Is this work? Making cookies? That's not work. Digging ditches, you know, throwing garbage in a garbage truck. That's work. Building buildings. That's work. I'm not working. I'm playing every day, having a really great time. And I'm going to continue to do it as long as I can move parts of my body. I was inspired once, a long time ago. There's the guy that owns CBS. Maybe I don't know whether he still does. His name is Redmond, I think. He's a very prominent business guy, and I think he was 76 years old when he bought CBS, and was still making deals and doing stuff. You know, Warren Buffett, those guys. I mean, who created this retire? Who said you're supposed to retire? Retire or what? No, I think you should do something as long as you got good health.
I think you're
something to do.
I think it's a role model, Wally. I think you're exactly right. 100 years from now, you carved out a niche in pop culture with Taxi, with the cookies, with the commercials, with this company. I believe is going to do great things. When you look back on in the history books, because you'll be there, you're in the Smithsonian.
I'll be dead.
Well,
I'll be dead,
but so will I. We'll both be gone. But how do you want people to remember you?
I would like for people to remember that I was an honest person, that I was fun, and that I shared with people. That I was a servant. I mean, basically, I'm just a servant, man. My goal is to make this life experience, this planet, maybe a little better in some ways than it was before I came here. And so that my time here I hope has been worthwhile. Just not just filling up space, but making a positive contribution and being an inspiration and a positive influence to other people. And I get enough feedback on a daily basis from people that really confirms that's pretty much what I've done.
I do want to mention it again. Wally Amos is back in the cookie game, and this is a great business. The Cookie Man, you can go and get all the information, www.thecookiemanhawaii.com. No spaces in that. There we go. Beautiful. And I want to say, on a personal note in the end of this, that, Wally, first of all, as I said, this has been a lot of fun to talk with you. I have enjoyed this thoroughly. But I want to say that I hope people don't forget, and I don't think they will, but Wally Amos not only carved out a niche and was a pioneer in the African-American world as a role model for somebody to do good, in the entrepreneurial world, black, white, purple, green, whatever, you carved it out there, to do what you've done for literacy, to do what you've done just to make people happy by what you do. You know, who cares about the money? It has been a great run. You are a great guest.
Thank you.
I'm just delighted to have you on, and I hope you do come back.
Well, if you invite me back, I will return, yes. And I want to mention just in closing that I've never valued money. I've never been responsible in terms of money. And that's part of the reason that I lost Famous Amos and didn't make, a lot of money from Famous Amos. This time around, I'm not selling cookies to make money, but I'm going to be more responsible because there's a lot of money to be made. And the more money I make, the more serving I can do, the more people I can help, the more kids I can help learn how to read, the more families perhaps I can help. So it is important to be responsible, and we don't want material things to be the center of our lives. But they will facilitate you and to help you serve others and do more with your life. And that's my goal this time around, to make enough money that I can help make the world a better place and help a few people, kind of get an upper hand that might not have help otherwise. So. Do the best you can with what you got, folks.
That's right. There is nobody like him. He is Wally Amos. I'm sure you know him well.
Aloha, y'all. Scott, this has been, I haven't done interviews in so long, really. So this is kind of like practice. But it's not an interview, it's just a conversation that you and I have had. And you have been gracious enough to let me have most of the conversation. And I thank you very, very much, man, for being my first interview, my first media person, as I get ready to step back on stage with this wonderful company that I'm creating with the help of so many other people, the Cookie Man. The Cookie Man. Remember that logo. If it doesn't say the Cookie Man, it's not Wally Amos. Wally Amos is the Cookie Man. The taste you will remember.
I don't know how anybody could not like famous Wally Amos. And the Cookie Man is back in business. I have tried the cookies. They are delicious. I implore you to order some for yourself, a great holiday gift or anytime gift. Cookies from Hawaii, made with aloha from Mr. Wally Amos, an entrepreneur's entrepreneur. But we wish him well. But for this episode of Scott Spears Now, it's time for me to say, this is Scott Spears heading for the dugout.